Hello, and welcome back to the channel. This is the second episode of Creator Commentary, and I'll be looking at my first evolution that I ever created, the Evolution of Jason Voorhees. Let me just give a little bit of history and like why I chose this subject, because my first video, if you watch the first Creator Commentary, it's the origin of the Basset Hound. You couldn't really get much further apart than the origin of the Basset Hound to the Evolution of Jason Voorhees, so I want to let you know kind of why I pivoted the channel into doing evolution videos as opposed to like covering like things like the origin of the Basset Hound or the origin of the Siamese cat or the origin of airplanes or whatever. So basically, I had lost my job. I put out the Basset Hound video. It got quite a few views because I shared it with Lester's Instagram account. It got like 10,000 views in a week. I was pretty excited. I just didn't want to like keep doing videos like that, and I was just bored. And one day I was just watching on Netflix. They had a whole bunch of the Friday the 13th movies. I'm a pretty big Friday the 13th fan, and I hadn't seen them in a while, so I just like tossed them on, and I was just watching them all in one row in one night. And I was just like, man, Jason looks like completely different in each one of these freaking movies. It's like there's no like consistency anywhere in this series. I just couldn't find something online going through like all of his different looks, at least not in like a satisfactory way for me. So I was just like, you know, maybe I should just make a video going through that. I just kind of took the style of what I did with the origin of the Basset Hound, and I applied it to
a gruesome horror franchise,
the Friday the 13th series. I was like taking something that's very serious and putting it into the kind of like childish, almost cartoon format, and just the juxtaposition between those two things make the video kind of like an interesting thing to watch. It's kind of like when Quentin Tarantino uses like happy music over like a scene of like extreme murder, kind of like what he does in like Reservoir Dogs with Stuck in the Middle with You. Although this is less extreme, no one's getting murdered in my videos. Well, I guess sometimes people are getting murdered in my videos. One thing you will notice is that the music is way too loud in this video. I was using like headphones that just weren't good at the time, so I couldn't really mix things like 100% properly. And you're gonna notice a couple other mistakes. I'll point them out as I watch them. So yeah, let's jump into this first video, the evolution of Jason Voorhees, the first evolution video on my channel, the second animation video. And this is the second creative commentary. So let's jump into it right now.
The Friday the 13th films are known for horror icon Jason Voorhees. From misshapen boy to space monster, let's go through his progression.
Now one thing you're gonna notice in a lot of these earlier videos, I just have the title of the video and then the characters like cut a hole or pop a hole or shoot a hole out and they just pop their head through. And I stopped doing them because I was like, it's getting kind of boring. But I think it works for these earlier ones because like I was still trying to find my footing. And the font I'm using here, I just thought it was like pretty close to like the actual Friday the 13th font, and I like it a lot. What you're looking at here, the title, the line, the font underneath, it's all meant to match how it looked like in the trailer for, I think it was Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. That's because I really like that one. People hate it because it doesn't have Jason in it, and people think I hate it because I don't like mention him really. I just erase him away in this one. You'll see soon. But yeah.
Jason first appears in Part 1 as a bald, deformed child who drowned at Camp Crystal Lake.
I thought it was kind of a funny thing to make him drown because he looks at his own hideous reflection. And obviously in the movie, I think you only like really see him in like flashbacks. I want to show him, you know, how he actually looks. And I don't like draw the lake. I don't really do background stuff that much. I find it kind of tedious to do that. So I think of like ways to get around it. When he falls, just have him go into a puddle and a sound effect, and that sells that it's a lake.
His mother later avenges his death, only to be killed herself.
I really dislike the design I did for Pamela Voorhees here. It looks more like Donald Trump to me, but I'm not like a designer by trade. I went to school for animation. This was like one of the first like people designs that I did. Doesn't really have much of a likeness to her, so if I were to like do this again, I definitely would redesign a lot of this stuff in here. But I think for the most part it works. And you'll notice in this one, I like to have less characters who come in, things will like fly off from off screen and like, so she like lost her head like that. You don't see the person who does it. I think if I were to do this now, I'd probably have the final girl from the first Friday movie and the second one, you know, I'd probably have her like jump in and then toss that at her and then she would lose her head.
In Part 2, Jason is alive somehow and seeking revenge for his mother. He's full grown and wears a plaid shirt.
Sometimes I have him coming in with clothes that don't look like he did in the last one. So like now I probably have him just change his outfit to match the narration more. But I think this works well enough. You get to see the final suit for a bit longer. And yeah, let's keep on moving.
Overalls and a one-eyed sack. Unmasked, his head appears lumpy with patchy long hair.
I think the one-eyed sack is like a reference or like just kind of stolen from this movie, this old horror movie from the 70s called The Town That Dreaded Sundown, I believe. And there's like a potato sack killer in that one as well. And like I guess I just kind of like the look of it. But this is obviously the first adult Jason on screen. He doesn't have the hockey mask, but I think it's an interesting design. And even his face is very interesting. Although I think I forgot to add a little bit of like stubble or facial hair to him here.
Jason is bulkier in part 3 and acquires an iconic hockey mask and trades the overalls for blue pants and a green dress shirt.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the first of like the popping on the clothes that match things a bit better. I really like how the shave, like the hair leaves here. I really liked how that worked. I've used it a few times since. And yeah, I really like this design for Jason.
And oddly shares little resemblance to himself in part 2. In the final chapter...
So I had lower thirds in the Bassenhelm one, which I totally forgot about until I watched it. But you'll notice that there's like, his mask is the lower third. I want the mask to match what they look like in the actual film. That way you can kind of get like an evolution in the lower thirds as well as what it looks like on the screen. So that's something that I sometimes do still, where I'll have like just a little evolution on the corner in the lower thirds.
Jason's clothes noticeably have more wear and tear, and his face looks much more deformed. He's sliced to death by his...
Tommy from like the young Corey Feldman character is the one who like hacks him to death in this one. So I probably would have him like hop in and like throw that in him now. But for this, it works well enough.
His own machete and presumed dead. Jason in A New Beginning is revealed to be a copycat killer. So let's move on.
Like I like the run cycle, and I think it's funny that this Roy Burns gets erased away here to make room for like the actual Jason. But if I were to do this now, I'd probably have him pop in, and then it would be revealed after that he's not really the Jason, and I'd be like, so let's move on. That way you can get a better look at this design, because really I like the look of Roy Burns. He's kind of like wearing more overalls like Michael Myers would, but I think it works pretty well, and it's like differentiates him from like the actual Jason Voorhees.
In part 6, Jason Lives, Jason is brought back to life when lightning hits his corpse.
I probably have Tommy and his friend here digging this, or like looking like they're digging it, and then have Jason pop up and then they run away. But I think this works well enough, and I like this zombie Jason. I think this is cool.
While zombified, he dons the same attire, but with additional gloves.
Additional gloves. Yeah, if I were to do this now, I'd mention that he's wearing paintball gear as well on top of the gloves. But, you know, at least I added it in there, so it's like there's something there.
In the climax, he is chained to the bottom of Crystal Lake. In part 7, The New Blood, Jason is let loose by a girl with...
Yes, actually, I really like Friday the 13th Part 7. And it's like the Jason kind of versus Carrie movie. I like that character, but like this drawing of her just doesn't really look like her. And you'll notice like in these earlier animations that the heads of the characters are a lot bigger than what I would do now. Obviously, like they're cartoons and like the heads are going to be a bit bigger, but like this head is like gigantic. It's like the size of her torso. Actually, it might even be bigger than her torso. So that's something that I probably wouldn't do as big right now. I might make it a bit more accurate to what the actual actress looks like. But again, it works well enough for this video.
Psychic powers, and now sports a chain around his neck and clothing that is even more tattered, revealing bone underneath.
This is my favorite look for Jason of all time. I just love this like tattered clothes, zombie, bone showing look.
His mask is broken and reveals an extremely rotted face. Once again, to stop his rampage, he's sent to the bottom of the lake.
I like this movie, but the ending makes like no sense whatsoever. But it's fun enough. It's a Friday movie. It doesn't have to make too much sense.
Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, has Jason awoken by electric shock and finds a new mask. He now seems perpetually wet. He hops a boat to...
So I think this is the only time where I really like mess around with the camera a bit in this, where like I truck out away from Jason at that 3/4 like look in the middle, and it takes like the boat and like I show like the background of New York, which is something I would like kind of do from time to time. And I do like how that Statue of Liberty turned out. I think I was looking at like a pretty good reference for it. And then I had like little cabbies that I drew there. But yeah, like I don't really mess around with the camera too much with the earlier episodes here. This is like kind of a very unique shot.
New York, and what's there is melted away by toxic sludge. But don't worry.
It isn't like exactly what it looks like when he gets melted away by toxic sludge. I thought that's like just having him be like this like gooey pile. And then he like reforms back up into like his Part 9 look was pretty cool.
And Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, Jason...
Although, like, I probably would mention that his skin is like green, and then it becomes flesh colored again here. Obviously, his like suit is like even like quite a bit different here, because it stayed pretty consistent for like a lot of the middle ones there, from like 3 through until 8. It's pretty consistent. I think it just gets a little bit darker and like dirtier as it goes on. And then like in this one, it's like a completely different look, completely different hairstyle, completely different suit. It's just like everything's just different.
He's alive again. His mask is now embedded to his face.
I like the embedded look here. And I think that sound effect is just an elastic band being pulled. That's just a little behind the scenes thing for you.
With wisps of hair falling out. Within the first 10 minutes, he's blown up and presumed dead. But the film carries on as his ghost possesses other people.
I didn't know how to like do this part 100% because you don't actually see like a little ghost of Jason ever in the movie, like going into anybody. I gotta show this visually somehow, that he's like inhabiting these bodies. So I just like drew these little cartoon versions of these characters. And yeah, I don't love how the designs look for some of them, but it's fine. It is what it is. I'm just, maybe I'm being a little too hard on myself. This is a very popular video, so what do I know?
He eventually resurrects himself, but is soon stabbed.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is in the movie. It's the weirdest little creature that crawls out from some of like one of like the dead Jason bodies that he inhabited, and like crawls into like his sister to then reform as Jason. It's so weird. It just makes no sense.
But is soon stabbed.
Although I'm sure someone in the comments gonna be like, well, it's because he's a deadite or whatever, and it's all this rules from the Evil Dead series. It's too late to bring that into a franchise. Like 9 films in and be like, yeah, it's actually a part of Evil Dead, and that's why when he's a zombie, he just doesn't die. It's like, what?
By a magic dagger and dragged into hell.
And yes, Freddy's glove in the actual movie does come up, so I just like literally just like showed that. And then I wanted it to go straight into Freddy versus Jason after that, because that's where it is in the timeline. And that's what that love scene was setting up. I think it took them like over 10 years to like actually make that sequel, or that crossover.
Jason is risen by Freddy Krueger for their crossover.
Yeah, I went through many different ideas with like how should I wake up Jason here? I just thought like, you know, just have Freddy come in with a little alarm clock, and then
Jason.
He knocks it out, and then he jumps up. I thought it was kind of funny.
His mask is no longer embedded, his skin appears leathery, and he's game-wide.
Although I don't really love the look of Jason in this film. I do not like the gray skin, and I think, I don't know if you see his face fully unmasked, but like I've seen behind the scenes shots of it, and it's just not great.
He's also sporting a new brown coat. Jason.
Maybe it's like an issue with the early 2000s where like every like killer just had this like bulky coats on. I was like, what is going on here?
X shows Jason back to his normal height and flesh-colored skin, and his face here is lumpy. He's cryogenically frozen.
This part I kind of like how he like freezes, and like the sound of ice cracking. That was like a nice little sound effect.
Frozen and let loose on a spaceship, and later rebuilt with nanotechnology, which gives him a shiny.
And the Uber Jason here. This is my favorite design that I did for this whole video. It's not perfect, but I think it's kind of like a cute little interpretation of him. Although the movie itself is like, I don't love Jason X. I know some people love it. I don't love it, but I think it's kind of a cool concept, and I'm really glad that the Friday series got that weird, because it kind of makes this a more interesting video because of it. But the look of Jason, Uber Jason, they call him, it's interesting at least.
New mask and bodysuit. With nowhere left to go, the Jason series was rebooted with a more classic look in 2009, leaving Uber Jason in space.
Now, obviously, if you've actually seen Jason X, Uber Jason isn't left in space. He actually like goes into space and then like disintegrates as he like lands on, I think it's like Earth 2 they call it, a different planet where people are living now because we destroyed Earth 1 or something. It's kind of a strange story, but I just thought it was like, this was kind of funny to leave him like floating up here. And again, I just made this video for fun. I didn't make this video thinking this is gonna get millions of views, and like I think there's like moments in your life where you don't realize that something you're doing is gonna like affect the rest of your life possibly. And me posting this video like is one of those moments that I always like think of, like, wow, if I didn't do that, my life right now would be completely different. I'm not saying it'd be horrible. I always liked just being an animator at studios and stuff, but this video and the response that I got from it, it like gave me the drive, I guess, to like keep going with this idea, with this channel. And I'm really glad that people liked it, and I really like how it turned out. Like, I know I'm like, oh, I could do this better, I do this better now. But like, obviously I'm looking at this almost 4 years later, comparing this how I did modern videos, like how I did the Candyman video or the Leprechaun video or the Venom video, and being like, I really like how I'm doing stuff there, And like obviously I could look back at the first Evolution video and be like, well, there's things to improve. So, you know, like the first day or month whenever they release like a new Friday the 13th film, that will give me the excuse that I need to really go in and completely rehaul this video. I'll probably do something similar for the Michael Myers one. I know I already updated it last year and fixed up a few things, but I think I could use like a pretty good rehaul as well, although I'll get into that next time on Creator Commentary. So sometimes like you don't know what you're doing is going to affect your life so positively, and like this channel, I don't want to say like it like saved my life or anything, but I was definitely in a dark place when I created it, and I'm really glad of how it turned out. And just a little background on like how this video I think blew up, because some people ask me like, oh, like how do you make it as a YouTuber, or, like how do you do YouTube full time? So they had released this game called Friday the 13th the Game, and I shared this video on Friday the 13th the Game, the subreddit on Reddit, and it got like so many upvotes. And I guess the person, I think his name is Wes, he was, I don't want to say the showrunner for like the game, but he was like kind of like the co-creator or like the producer for the game, and he saw it and he's like, man, I really like this, I'm going to share it on Twitter. And then I looked at the Twitter account for Friday the 13th the Game. I think at the time they had like 200,000 followers or 300,000 followers or maybe even 400,000 followers. They had a lot of followers, and he shared the link to my Jason video on there, and it got so many likes and like so many upvotes. So because like this Twitter account shared it, and all these people who are watching it are obviously big fans of Friday the 13th, they're like, okay, well, we'll share with people who watch similar things to them, and then like it just keeps splintering from there. So like then you share with those people, and like more people who watch things like them will get shared, and it just splinters and splinters off until it eventually tapers off like somewhere and be like, okay, I guess like they reached most of their audience. Now that's not a like a hard set rule, but that's just like kind of like how I think the algorithm sort of works. And you know, sometimes like I'll do a video and won't get that many views. Like my Batman video, like I put it out and didn't get an amazing amount of views, but then like it just slowly, steadily got more views and views and views. And then I have like other videos that got, you know, pretty good views. And then like recently Ghostface has become like a meme or something. A lot of people are like maybe like prepping for like Scream 5. So that video itself has like popped again, which is really nice. And like same thing happened to Godzilla when like the Godzilla vs. Kong came out. And yeah, so for the case of this video, like the Twitter post really made this video pop. And I was like, you know, maybe I can like keep doing this. People like this. They're requesting videos in the comments. Maybe I can do more videos like this. Just one of those things, you know? You just don't really know what people are going to think of something until you put it out there. And I didn't realize that there was this huge community of people who loved the Friday the 13th series as much as I did. And I was just so glad to like find those people and like talk to them. And I'm so glad I was able to create a piece of content that people who like those series and like these series that I'm covering, or maybe don't even know the series I'm covering, but they still enjoy learning about these things because it's just like something within that community. And I'm glad I was able to like kind of pivot my channel from just like horror stuff and just the Basset Hound stuff into covering more superheroes and sci-fi stuff from this point on. So that's why this video is very special to me. It was just like something that I didn't expect to do amazing. Friday the 13th will always have like a space in my heart because of it. I guess we could just finish the end credits here and then I'll call it a night. Nicholas Headless does the sound. I'm so used to him being my narrator, but yeah, Stanton Nichols, this is the first video that he did for me. His voice, the music, the style of the cartoon, the information given, the designs, I think everything like put together like really creates this like, I don't want to say perfect storm. I don't want to be like, I make perfect videos. But like, I think everything like kind of blends together really well. Bam. And there you go. Yeah. So that's the evolution of Jason Voorhees. Hope you learned a lot about what was going on behind the scenes here, about why I chose this character, about the choices I make with the animations. And next up will probably be the original Michael Myers video. So I'll go through that. So stay tuned for more creator commentary videos. These videos are a lot of fun for me to do. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments. Until next time, I've been Aaron, and I'll tell you something later. Just one of those things, you know?